One of the issues that the panel raised is that they did not believe there was enough robust evidence for council to identify specifically childcare facilities, and they questioned why it was only those activities that we sought to apply controls on when they were in these arterial locations. So if this is an area that the council wished to look into further, what we'd need to put in is a monitoring regime that actually did air quality testing along these arterials on a robust and regular basis, and also work with childcare facilities to understand the impact on them. But they did not consider that the evidence that they had received at the panel was robust enough to convince them to impose this control on childcare facilities.
Was there evidence against it, or is that simply their view?
My understanding that there were some submissions that were seeking that this corridor control be removed. Obviously, council put its case up in support of retaining the corridor.
Okay, now can we go to C? Technical discussion. So you're proposing...
So the last one here is around the panel's recommendation to remove the deletion of the Auckland ambient air quality standards. These are standards that have a long-standing existence in terms of the regional plans around air quality. They enable a proper assessment of resource consents, and without them you have we believe there will be almost a very difficult task on behalf of the resource consent planners to do any proper assessment of activities against air quality standards. So that's why we believe that we need to reject the recommendation of the panel to delete those references to the Auckland ambient air quality standard.
Okay, well that's your mitigation. Councillor Bill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Pruitt, when the panel was looking into this matter, was it more about particulate size, as I think some government's moving to change some legislation or mould that, or was it about the actual vehicle emissions as in Eurostar findings?
It certainly wasn't about vehicle emissions in this case. It was to do with various particulate emissions.
Okay.
If you wanted to get into the detail of this, I would have to get the experts to come
So
on.
I read through the summary evidence and it was...
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, any other questions or comments, councillors? Okay, we've got a recommendation there. There's been some indications, but I think probably feel comfortable enough for us to put the recommendation. It sits there on the screen. I'm happy to move that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross. I'll move that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. No, those noes. Thank you very much. Move on next to Mana Whenua and sites of Mana Whenua significance. Right.
I'm happy to.
Councillor Penn, you want to move?
I do. I'll second.
Yep, and Councillor Cathy will second. Right. Away we go.
Okay, so fairly significant policy matter here. This panel hearing topic 009 is the regional policy statement provisions, where the first references to Mana Whenua cultural values and also to Māori land appear. And then in terms of the rules and the overlays that you'll be very well familiar with, they appear in topics 036, 037. So it's the full package really, from the regional policy statement right through to the specific rules within the overlay. We are recommending that that you reject this recommendation from the panel. The basis for that is set out on page 29. The first fundamental reason is that we believe that the panel has misinterpreted the council's case. We don't believe the panel has provided sufficient reasons for rejecting the overlay, and then there are a number of bullet points on page 99 that talk, 29 of the agenda, that go into detail around the council's statutory obligations that we've discussed previously at Auckland Development Committee in relation to matters of national importance, relationship with Māori to their ancestral lands and taonga. The evidential basis for including the 2,213 sites and places of value to mana whenua was there, we believe. That evidence was in the nature of being very precise about the location of the sites based on the archaeological files. As you recall, there were originally 3,600 sites. Through the analysis that the staff undertook, we were able to confirm the locations of a number of those, and we also worked very closely with mana whenua over many months, seeking further information from mana whenua, and I don't believe the panel refers to that at all in their recommendations, the values work that we did with mana whenua to substantiate the evidence for a total of 2,213 of the original 3,600 sites. So essentially that's where our recommendation lies and the key reasons for recommending that we reject this panel recommendation.
Councillor Penny H, would you like to open the batting on this?
Mr. Mayor, there's been so much said on this issue, and during the debate and the discussion at the Unitary Plan Committee, we did a huge amount of work on this. I guess it's one of those issues that people simply have an agreement on or a strong feeling against. I don't want to inflame the debate. I think there's simply good reason, and for me, the reasons that the staff have given take the politics and the emotion out of it, and it's simply the incorrect interpretation by the panel of the evidence that we presented, and I think that for me is a very concrete and moderate reason on which to reinstigate our sites of value to mana whenua.
Okay, and Councillor Cathy?
Yeah, just to endorse that, I'll take issue with the staff when I think there's a political opinion being voiced that's in opposition to mine, like the provisions for affordable housing later in the debate. But this is evidentially based, and that's what we should be basing our decisions on. So the evidence is there. The panel seems to have overlooked it or misread it. So we should be supporting our position on this. No change.
Okay, and I'm sure there'll be one or two speakers with a contrary view.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Dick?
I just want to understand this completely, because it says, accept all recommendations of the independent hearings panel. And yet the panel, so we're talking about the sites of significance here, sites of value to mana whenua, and the panel has recommended that they be deleted, but the council advice, the council officer's advice is to reject that. So by voting to accept all recommendations, are we not then voting for the panel's view and not the council's position?
Okay.
The reason there is that wording is that those two, topic 009 and topic 036, 037, cover far more than the sites of value, sites and places of value to mana whenua. And so all of the other recommendations that are contained in those reports,
Yes.
officers are recommending that you accept. But then when you get to the end of it, it says, except for the recommendations outlined below which it rejects. And we've been very specific, the recommendation which we are recommending to you reject is that the panel recommends the deletion of sites and places of value to the mana whenua overlay and associated provisions. So it's only those recommendations that are contained in those three reports to do with sites and places of value to mana whenua that we are recommending you reject. Everything else in those reports that talk about Māori land and treaty issues, we are recommending you accept the position of the panel.
Now,
So, Mr Chairman, just following on from
just hang on, please. Thank you. Councillor Bill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Taking on what Ms Pruitt has said, however, there is still 2,213 sites that the panel has recommended be removed for reasons that they've had. And when you trace this process back, there is still a great deal of community concern about the accuracy and the definitions around high value. And to me, the process has been flawed from the start. These provisions were dropped into the proposed Auckland Unitary Plan very late. There seemed to have been a degree of uncertainty amongst councillors at that time as to how and why that came about. Having lived through this process for this term, my personal view is we need to start again. We need to have an agreement about what is high value between iwi and this council and the community, and then put these remaining 2,213 sites, which we have evidential base for, through that sieving process to see where that comes. We are putting, in my opinion, the cart before the horse here. Let's go through and do the drafting process about what is in and what is out after we've agreed on what is high value. So I cannot support the staff's recommendation here, and I'll be standing beside the IHP's recommendations.
Right. Okay. Councillor Mike.
Mr Mayor, I will certainly support the recommendation. Councillor Cashmore is quite right to say that the sites of value were dealt with very late in the piece, but people were well aware of what they were, or the principle, the precautionary principle, which motivated the recommendations. I will say what I don't think anyone was aware, around the table anyway, about a mechanism of cultural impact assessments which cause a lot of problems. That's been set aside, but the sites of value, I believe, are sites of value. And there are a whole lot of reasons why we need to have regard to them. And they are regional in extent, and therefore a precautionary approach of protecting them or taking them into account, whatever the state they are in, and I guess some of them would be fairly minimal in terms of midden or whatever, but nonetheless, we have obligations, and I'm happy to support it on that basis. But I'm looking for some consistency here. If we take a precautionary approach on sites of value to one section of the community, we need to take the same approach to all of the community, and that relates to the next item we're dealing with, the pre-1944 overlay. So I'm supporting this on the basis of consistency and fairness, and I think we're all aware of the value that our community puts on heritage, all of it, and it's not tied up with race. All of that heritage belongs to all of us, and I think we need to take a precautionary approach in identifying it and protecting it appropriately before it is destroyed, because once it's gone, it's gone. And so I support the recommendation. I take it that I will deal with the pre-1944 layer soon, but I would ask everyone here, including the staff, to be absolutely consistent in this approach. Thank you.
Right. And now Councillor Christine.
Oh, Mr Chairman, I think it's been said, but I think the way that it's being posed at the moment is difficult, because there are some recommendations we support and there are some, for some of us, we don't support. So I'm just wondering whether that could be made clearer when we come to vote.
Yeah, just hang on. Councillor George, I've got Councillor Denise next.